West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another quick edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, and this is the last in the edition of team previews in terms of CPL 2025. Yesterday, we dropped St. Lucia Kings, and then the Kings' game against Antigua was washed out. So Kings get their first point on the board after one game. Antigua moved to 3 points from 3 games played. And tonight, there's no game tonight, which is why actually it helps to drop this particular video today. Now, TKR obviously have already played. They won on Sunday morning. Say Sunday morning. It was, afternoon in the UK, but Sunday morning, I guess, in the Caribbean. They beat, let me just find it. They beat St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots. I'm just trying to find the scorecard from that game. So in that game, TKR posted 231 for 5. Batting first, and then they restricted St. Kitts to 219 for 7 in their reply, winning by 12 runs. So admittedly, I'm doing this kind of preview of the TKR team well in the knowledge that they've already played one game. And so we've already kind of got a bit of an insight into where they're going. Now, interestingly, as you can see from the thumbnail for this particular episode, I'm saying, can TKR win their 5th title? TKR are, of course, the winningest side in CPL. DJ Bravo has now transitioned into the coaching realm. He is the head coach of this side. Darren Bravo has come back, which I guess is to be expected in some, whether he plays, but he's come back in some capacity. And that's good to see. I've got a lot of time still for Darren Bravo. I think, how old is Darren now? Is he 37 or is he still 36? Let me just double check if Darren has turned 37 yet. Darren Bravo. Bravo is 36. So there's still, there's still a place and a time for a Darren Bravo, you know. People might cuss and say, Mash, stop it. But he's only 36 years old. Kawaja's playing for Australia at 38. So if Bravo can show bits and pieces of form, who am I to say that Bravo can't still get himself back into some kind of West Indies contention? Although I would more assume that would be in red ball cricket if Bravo was willing to come back and play a season of cricket again in the Caribbean. And I already know he's unhappy with how Desmond Haynes and that particular cohort treated him in his mind. So who knows? But anyways, he's back in the CPL fold. So like I say, TKR have started with a win. Now, every season, people put TKR as one of the favourites. I think generally speaking in CPL, everyone goes, Guyana will win it or TKR will win it. That's generally how the setup goes. St. Lucia obviously upset the apple cart last year and they won. But if you go 2023, Guyana won. 2022, I think Jamaica won, beating... Who did they beat in the final, Jamaica? They beat Barbados. 2023, Guyana beat Trinidad in the final. 2021, who won in 2021 again? 2021 was when TKR had their terrible season. They didn't even qualify for the eliminators. And then I'll come back to 2021. I can't remember now who won in 2021 off the top of my head. And then in 2020, Trinidad won in 2020, beating St. Lucia in the final. Let me just see. 2021 is when St. Kitts won. St. Kitts beat St. Lucia in the final in 2021. So 2020, TKR beat St. Lucia. 2021, St. Kitts beat St. Lucia. 2022, Jamaica beat Guyana. 2023, Guyana beat Trinidad. I hope I've got this right. No, sorry, 2022, Jamaica beat Barbados. 2023, Guyana beat Trinidad. And then last year, St. Lucia beat, was it Guyana last year? I presume it was Guyana in the final. Can't even remember. Yeah, St. Lucia beat Guyana. Now, I say all this to say, because this video is about TKR. As good as TKR are, as much as they have on paper the best, I don't know if best is the right word anymore, but the most notable is the best word probably. On paper, TKR have the most notable West Indian talent in terms of what they've achieved in the game, right? So every year people go, well, TKR should win or they should at least get to the final. But since 2020, they've won once and got to one final. And really and truly, for a side as storied and the best franchise in CPL history, they should have done better than that. In 4 seasons, 2020, 21, 2, 3, 5 seasons, 2020 all the way through to 2024, they've won once and got to one final. They've obviously got to some semis and eliminators in that time as well, but they're really supposed to have more than one title in 5 seasons. So they're going to want to make amends this season. Anyway, without any further ado, let's bring up their particular squad. Here we go. So the TKR squad this year, Dwayne Bravo, like I say, is the coach. And then you have the overseas talent as Alex Hales, Mohamed Amir, Colin Munro, Usman Tariq, and and Ali Khan, right? Now, obviously, I would love to know. Let's go here. I need to bring up my other data as well that I've got. I would love to know the Knight Riders strategy here, because when you've only won one title in 5 seasons and obviously got to one final as well, at some point, don't you need to critique your strategy in some shape or form, right? So they're overseas players: Hales, Amir, Munro, Tariq, Khan. Take Tariq out of it for a second. I'll get to him in a minute. Alex Hales is an old man. Mohamed Amir, how old's Mohamed Amir now? He must be like mid-30s by now, right? Mohamed Amir, how old is Mohamed Amir now? He is 33, right? Colin Munro, he's an old guy out here. And I know Colin just hit a 120 and Colin Munro's 38, right? Alex Hales is 36. Mohamed Amir, 33. Even Ali Khan must be 35, 36 by now. Ali Khan is 34, right? So all their overseas men, minus Usman Tariq, are old men. Again, this is a problem I have with T20 cricket in general. It's very much the home of mid-30s to late 30s guys who may or may not have had an international career, who are now cashing in at the back end in these down bad T20 tournaments. So that's their overseas man. I'm not critical of the talent of these guys because they are who they are. Alex Hales obviously can be an explosive opener. We saw that in their first game against St. Kitts. Colin Munro, even though he's 38, he can still do it. We saw that in the first game against St. Kitts. Ali Khan is basically a Knight Riders staple. We've seen what he can do in previous editions of CPL. Mohamed Amir, when he's not bowling erratic overs, is one of the most dangerous T20 bowlers up front and at the back end. So I get it. We'll get to Tariq later. But then you look at their domestic talent, right? Nicholas Pooran, obviously retired from international cricket. Pooran's one of the top 5 most marketable T20 overseas players in the world, if not top 2. Kieran Pollard, Andre Russell, Sunil Narayan, Akil Hussain. Let's just deal with them. Even Terence Hines, right? If you add all of them, are plus 30. And I say this, not Pooran's 29, but I say this to say, I'm not saying this to be like, and therefore Knight Riders should be cussed down. That's not really my point. My point is, what's the succession plan? I've raised this so many times before. Pollard, Narayan, Russell are all going to retire roughly at the same time. Or unless TKR are planning to play these guys till they're 40, 41, right? They will roughly all retire at the same time. So what's TKR's plan to replace these guys? And this is why I've always said CPL will also have a wider issue, because when you use the notorious in a good way, or notable is a better word, names of your Pollards, your Russells, your Narayans, etc., who are the up-and-coming next guys to replace those guys in terms of marketability? Pollard, Russell, and Narayan are as much there for marketability as they are for their ability, right? So Knight Riders have a problem. The wider CPL has a problem. We shouldn't still be looking at players who are mid-30s to late 30s still being the standout players in a team. Like, where's the next gen they're pushing through for TKR? And then when you look at who they've drafted in, Darren Bravo, 36. Again, nothing against Darren Bravo. I think he's a quality player, but he's been drafted in. Yannick Carrier. How old's Yannick? Yannick must be 32 by now, you know. Yannick Carrier. How old? Let's see. Yannick Carrier. Yannick Carrier is 33. This is an old man. When I say old man, obviously I'm older than all of them. So I'm an uncle out here. But when we say old man, it's an old man side, you know. Let me just say this again for people like listening. Pooran 29, Pollard 38, Russell 37, the Ryan must be 36, 37 by now. Hale's 36, Hussein's 32, Amir's 34, Munro's 38, Khan is 33, Bravo's 36, Carrier is 33, Terence Hines is 32. In fact, Hines might all be 33 as well. Terence Hines, 33. Okay, I have nothing against players playing in their 30s, but I hope TKR have a plan. 2 seasons from now, what's their plan? To still be carrying all these men. So what's their succession plan? So when we get our first hints of their succession plan, we have to look at who did they draft from the breakout league. Obviously, Casey Carty's in there as well. He hit that 80-something last season to announce himself. I think he got 2 games at the back end for TKR, so they've retained him as well, which kind of makes sense. And then you look at who their breakout league guys are. McKennie Clark, Nathan Edward, Josh Da Silva. Now, Josh makes sense, backup wicketkeeper or first choice wicketkeeper, as we saw against St. Kitts. No issue with that. I think Josh, hopefully Josh can, there are people like, oh, Mash, you always batting for Josh. Yeah, Josh is a good player. Hopefully Josh can add some more big hitting repertoire to his game, because there is a potential spot for him in the future. Josh is only 25, 26, 20, he might be 26 now. In fact, let me check how old Josh is. I've forgotten. Josh has been around for so long now. I don't even, for all I know, he might all be 27 by now. Josh Da Silva is 27. See what I mean? Time goes fast. So Josh is 27. That's young in West Indies cricket. And then McKennie Clark and Nathan Edward are the academy guys, breakout league. Both got ability. Got a lot of time for McKennie Clark. Got a lot of time for Nathan Edward. I want to hope and see. Once TKR have qualified for the next stage and they feel risk averse, and they don't mind taking risks, rather, I want to see some game time for Nathan Edward, the left armour. I want to see some game time for McKennie Clark. You've got to think and build for the future. I get not playing them initially whilst you're trying to get into the tournament and get your points up, but I want to see some game time for McKennie Clark. I want to see some game time for Nathan Edward. Because Josh is also in the breakout league category, they may well end up playing Josh as a way to justify getting all their other 5 overseas players in if Ali Khan is fit. So I'm worried that players like McKennie Clark and Nathan Edward might not actually get a lot of game time because of how stacked the TKR team is. Now, in their first game against St. Kitts, this was their chosen 11. Colin Munro, Alex Hales, Nicholas Pooran, who obviously is the captain, Kyron Pollard, Casey Carty, Terence Hines, Akil Hussain, Sunil Narayan, Josh Da Silva, Mohammed Amir, Usman Tariq. Now, I think that is likely more or less to be their team for most of this tournament. The only 2 names that get back in when you look at the rest of their squad, Ali Khan probably comes in when they need a pacer, and maybe he would replace Terence Hines. And then Andre Russell probably comes in, and maybe he would replace Casey Carty. That might not be the way it goes, because Dre is definitely coming in once he's fit. So maybe he replaces Terence Hines. But then I'm looking at how do they get Ali Khan in? And maybe it's Tariq who comes out for Ali Khan as and when the pitch needs pace. But you see my issue there. If that is their team, how does somebody like a McKennie Clark get game time? How does Nathan Edward get game time? Even how does Darren Bravo get game time? So I only really see TKR changing their side as and when they've already got enough points on the board, and then you can give it. Yannick Karaya, I forgot about Karaya. I guess maybe they'll want the leg spinner in at some point, but you can see how the first 11 is the first 11. And then you look at the wider squad and go, boy, they might give Darren Bravo a little 1 game when it's okay. They might give McKennie Clark a little 1 game. They might give Nathan Edward a little 1-2 game, etc. But it's going to be very hard for the wider squad members to get in where injuries are not the common factor. So as ever, are TKR stacked? Yes. Are they 100% one of the favourites to win this tournament? Yes. But I feel like we say that every single year. There's wider issues that we should confront about the TKR side in terms of succession planning. Does this TKR side benefit wider West Indies cricket? No. Do they care? No. Do I care? Yes. And my final point, Usman Tariq is pelting. Let me just get that off my chest as well. At least, that game against St. Kitts, I counted at least, and this is me being conservative. I counted at least 3 or 4 balls where it was so obvious to the naked eye that he was pelting that I was just like, I even tweeted at the time, I was like, what the hell is going on here? The man's not even hiding the pelting. He just straight up pelting with chest. If you think I'm wrong, please get in the comments below and say, Mash, you don't know what you're talking about. The man bowling action is legal. There's no concerns about it. But I saw 3 or 4 deliveries minimum in that match where I was like, that's just a straight out pelting. And before anyone says, but Mash, this man has been called for pelting in successive years in PSL. And he's come to CPL and he started pelting. Anyways, let's see what happens. Let's see if his action gets called. I know a pelt when I see a pelt. You can't tell me otherwise. Anyways, I'll be Machel St. Patrick here on Half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. You can support us as ever. Head to www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket. That's the best way to support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. If you're not a sponsor, if you're not a wider this, a wider that, you can support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast that way. Get involved, people. If you can't support because you don't have the financial means to do so, at the very least, like, share, and subscribe to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Hit that notification bell because it helps the algorithms. Algorithm. Share it with a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. And if you're somebody who likes to, actually, because we're doing a TKR episode, if you're somebody who likes to study trends and data in terms of sports trends and sports data, read our descriptor below and go and look at Parlay Pros. They're a Trini company, so I should talk about them in this Trinidad episode. Go look at Parlay Pros. Go and get in touch with their high-tech, data-driven trend analysis tool that tells you about all sports, all players across the last 20, 15, 30 games. You can analyze the trends and stats. And then if you're somebody who likes to then flutter, because that's your particular vice and your particular interest, go and do so. But you can't do it with the app. It's just it just gives you the data to use if you so choose. If you're interested in that, please use the affiliate code CCP. But go and get involved if you're that way inclined. And please do things responsibly, please, people. Don't do stuff that you know you can't control. I'll be Machel St. Patrick here at one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. As ever, like, share, subscribe. We'll be back. Oh, there's a live show tonight. So get involved with that as well. Come talk the talk. And I'll see you all very, very soon. Peace.
West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.